Silva, we're ready to begin when you are.
Okay, I'd like to call to order this November 17th public work session of the Mahwah Board of Education at 7 o'clock in the evening. Let's see, this meeting of the Mahwah Board of Education is open to members of the public to be physically present. Members of the public that attend will be asked to follow the same procedures as all other visitors to our schools. Those procedures can be found on the agenda page of our website. Additionally, the board meeting will be live streamed for viewing purposes only. Anyone wishing to view the meeting may do so at Zoom, zoom.com, zoom.us. The webinar ID for this meeting is 895-0665-9008, and the required password is 365097. Mr. Bleeker, can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Denise.
Here.
Mr. Gallo.
Here.
Ms. Conoco.
Here.
Dr. Morthy. Dr. Park.
Here.
Ms. Sagone.
Here.
Mr. Copland.
Here.
Mr. Kismarski. And Mr. De Silva.
Here. Adequate notice of agenda of this meeting has been provided to the Ridgewood News and the Bergen Record, specifying that the Mahwah Board of Education will meet on November 17, 2021 in the administrative offices, 60 Ridge Road, Mawa, New Jersey. A copy was filed with the Township Clerk. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Face the flag of our nation. Place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so the executive session will be held at the end of the meeting. Agenda questions. Please limit your questions at this time to resolutions under new business on this agenda. As a matter of fairness, you're asked to limit your questions to no more than one and your remarks to no longer than 3 minutes. If you're here representing a group, please identify yourself, the group, and your position in the group. If you are here as an individual, please give us your name and address. This section of public participation will be limited to 15 minutes. Please specify the resolution you are referring to in your question. May I have a motion to open to the public? Ms. Conoco, second by Mr. Gallo. We're open to the public at 7:03. Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to close to the public? By Ms. Gallo and second by Mr. Coughlin. We are closed at 7:04. Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Before I get into the information I would like to share, on a yearly basis, Ms. Lisa Rizzo, who is our district anti-bullying coordinator, presents our self-assessment scores specific to HIB. Tonight will be that presentation where she'll be able to get up and give us a breakdown by school, what the self-assessments are, and really explain what this assessment's all about. Ms. Rizzo?
Thank you, sir. Got me a presentation mode? Thank you.
Thank you. Typically, we do this presentation in the summer because it culminates with the end of the school year. However, the New Jersey Department of Education was slow on pushing out whether or not they were changing the rubric or addressing it in a different way. So recently we were advised of no changes in the rubric, so we went forward with the self-assessment for the 2021 school year. As those of you who have been here before know, this is a mandated self-assessment, and the bulk of the analysis rests in our obligation of looking at meeting the obligations of our policy. And it's not so much about whether or not we have HIB in the district, but more so how we adhere to the policy that the board has voted upon. So in the process, the school safety teams meet in each building. They review their own performance based on the rubric criteria. The principal and the school safety team gather the evidence that they have to maintain until the Department of Ed comes and says they want to see it. And they present those scores to me. I review their scores based on the evidence that they have, and we either agree or agree to disagree, and we adjust accordingly. This year, with Dr. Totoro's support, we reviewed everything together and made some adjustments in areas in which buildings were being rather unduly hard on themselves. So I feel that this accurately represents the work that took place during the school year. The rubric has core elements in which it has indicators that we have to score ourselves on. In the areas of program, training, staff instruction, curriculum and instruction, in personnel, in school level HIB incident reporting, investigation procedures, and HIB reporting. Again, it is primarily the procedural obligation of the district. And for those of you who have been on the board for quite some time, you recall perhaps that when I was assigned HIB, I made a commitment to the board that we would never be out of compliance with these basic indicators relative to exposing the district or our students to any undue hardship by violating policy. We're able to score ourselves 0 if we don't meet the requirement, partially with a 1 if we do meet the requirement, 2 if we meet all of the requirement, and 3 if we exceed the requirements. Obviously, the maximum score is 78, and then ultimately the district receives an average score based on all of the school performance. Mawa High School evaluated itself, rated itself as 77 out of 78. We concur, and in doing so, the high school achieved maximum scores in those core elements that you see listed. We look at Ramapo Ridge Middle School. Again, not contingent upon the number of HIBs that a building received, on their ability to meet the criteria of the policy that the board has approved. In that regard, this building has awarded itself the 75. We concur, and they received maximum score elements in those domains. Joyce Kilmer, and we gave them a run for their money on certifying their 78 out of 78, and they were able to produce the documentation and demonstrate that they went above and beyond the expectations of the code. For example, in situations in which they only needed to meet twice a year, this building exceeded. They went 3, they went 4 times as a school safety team. The school safety team is charged with looking at the culture and climate of the building, determining if there's interventions needed in order to support the students. Now you know the district gave a concerted effort relative to supporting students throughout COVID. So you're going to see that we absolutely have the documentation that warrants this type of scoring. Betsy Ross, they're in the house.
Yeah.
Woo! 76 out of 78. George Washington, 75 out of 78. And I did track Mr. Ulmer down, actually, for some clarification on that. You know you can't ever leave me. Lenape Meadows, a 75 out of a 78. Again, you see what the buildings reached maximum score in core elements in. The district average is 76 out of 78. You can check my math, Dr. Totoro. In all core elements, and I had to say this to Dr. Fair this evening relative to just putting everything in perspective for ourselves in Mahwah. We have a tendency to want to be in the excess. In all core elements, every building scored either meets the requirements or exceeds the requirements. So while I selfishly always want the district to be overall scored 78 out of 78, we're doing what we need to in order to address the policy that the board has approved. So we are meeting all of the requirements, and more so at times, exceeding the requirements. It won't go. So just a little recap on last school year, which is such skewed data, obviously, based on our half days, our time away from the building, and the limited population that we had. But nonetheless, we did do investigations last school year. And of the 10 district-wide, bear in mind, 4 of them were confirmed cases. So this chart, I know, every year I'm gonna have to take a column off at some point. But what I'm showing you here, and you can look at more deeply should you so desire, is the total investigations by building in any given school year and the total number of confirmed cases. So you're seeing that in particular, when you go horizontally, you're looking at a building over time. So when we look at, for example, George Washington, across over time, a total of 3 investigations with no confirmed HIBs. I'm going to attribute the elementary strength overall to 1, just by virtue of the size of their building. 2, by virtue of the fact that we have an intense character education program that exists in our elementary buildings. Our teachers are executing that on a daily basis through all types of community-based cognitive skills for our students to be a member of a cohort. And that's essential, the de facto family, right? When we look at our middle school population, that's the one, while numerically we want to have some concern about, it is also consistent with the development of the population that we're dealing with. We recognize that at times these students don't have the executive functioning skills they have to know when to temper their comments towards one another. That doesn't mean that we decrease our expectations. That doesn't mean that we eliminate our obligation to address it. It simply means that we acknowledge that in this age level, there are efforts that are being made. And Dr. DeToro sat in on a school safety team meeting actually this week in our middle school, where you heard about the wealth of opportunities students have in order to engage peer-to-peer, have positive relationships with adults and with other children. So we're working on it. We're doing the best that we can, I believe, based on that assessment. And over time, we'll yield the benefits of our elementary program, which is so clearly seen in our high school program. That's what makes it clear that it's a developmental phase. We're out of it, we're in it, and we're out, and then we're out of it again. So all cases that were referred to the district were investigated. All cases were investigated within the timelines set forth by the law. So ultimately, as connected to the strategic plan, which is our commitment to you, the board, and to Dr. DeToro, all of our decision-making, all of our actions, all of our budgetary moves should be rooted within our strategic plan, was the goal that we set for that we have explicit yearly professional development, particularly in this area. Again, remember, it's about the policy that you all have voted on and enacted, that we're compelled to act on. So most likely the translation to our students rests in our teachers having the knowledge by which to educate our children. So we met the goals that we set for ourselves, in that the school annually assessed our programs and we had other initiatives. Now this was our goal last year because it was a deficit the prior year. And what have I set for our goal for this year is that we go back to training our school safety team members and our climate members, because we know that they are the entities that are responsible ultimately for hearing the voices of our parents, our students, and our faculty, and translating those voices into trends and patterns that we then have to act upon. So my goal this year is to be sure that the school safety team and the climate members have the information and knowledge that they need to make intelligent recommendations to the superintendent to ultimately affect change in the area of HIV, in the area of social climate. And that's our report, which will be posted once the Board of Ed acknowledges that our scores are consistent with them.
Any questions? No?
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rizzo.
Thank you, Dr. DeToro.
Moving on to the other parts of our report, there are some great things for us to share with the board and the community. As we all know, the Mawa School's Thunderbird Run took place a couple weeks back. They were great. The Mahwah Schools Foundation was great in trying to create really a positive buzz for our students and our staff. Again, I have to repeat, to see all of the staff members out there by school, all the students out there, whether it was our secondary students or upper elementary students taking part in the run, or lower elementary students doing the fun run. It was a great community event. That being said, the Mahwah Schools Foundation put together 3 competitions. The first competition was the Thunderbird Run challenge for our K-5 students, and they were looking to get the highest participation rate for the grade. So I'm happy to report that the 2nd grade across the district won that challenge. They will be taking part in an ice cream truck experience, which we all know is a very special thing in this district. So that will be coming in the near future. There's also the Thunderbird Run Student Challenge that took place for our 6th through 12th grade students. I'm happy to report Ramapo Ridge's 8th grade won that. So $500 will be donated to their 8th grade dance this year. Last but certainly not least, something that our district, which I absolutely love, is extremely competitive about, which is our staff challenge.
Recount.
Sorry.
There are some strong feelings throughout the district, as you can hear, for this event, and I'm happy to report that the Ramapo Ridge staff came out this year and won that challenge. That being said, congratulations to Ramapo Ridge, but I also want to thank all of the staff across the district, because to see all of the schools out there with their shirts and taking pictures, whether it was with the teachers brought their own children out, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful community-based experience. So thank you to all of our staff and students, the Mahwah Schools Foundation, for another absolutely wonderful event. Speaking of wonderful events, as you can see posted up on our screen here, we had a tremendous experience that took place this past Saturday. Our Mawa High School community problem solvers came together, and they were charged with identifying a problem that is happening in our community. They evaluated a number of different things, and they decided that they wanted to look at the Stag Hill and the mountains because they know that there is excessive amount of dumping up on those beautiful grounds, and they wanted to create positive change. What they did was they connected with MEVO, which is the Mawa Environmental Volunteer Organization. Ironically enough, a gentleman who is an alumni is one of the leads there for MEVO. They connected with MEVO, and with those students and Mr. Saputsky, they engaged our Mawa school community. Oh, what's happening? So what they did was they engaged our Mawa school community. That being said, they were able to get close to 100 people to sign up. That was students, staff member, administration, board members. They all came together on Saturday morning, and they went up to Stag Hill. At that time, they met with representatives from MEVO and the Ramapo tribe to be educated on the history of the area. To say that that was a powerful experience is really an understatement. To listen to the people share their history of the tribe, of the land, of the impact of this the illegal dumping, that has really impacted them both personally and then the environment as a whole, was an education for all of us, whether you were a student or an adult. And to look around while they were telling their story, not only their personal story, but the history of the tribe and the impact that they've had on the lands around here, is something that I'll never forget. So then after that introduction, we went to the site, and as you can see up here, we were all deployed to different areas. This is not the first time that this cleanup has happened. This is something that's ongoing, that's a commitment from MEVO and other organizations. An environmental organization has purchased a large amount of land and is giving it back to the tribe after this is all cleaned up. I say all this because talking to the students, talking to the adults, this is not a once and done type of event. They do this about 10 to 15 times a year. We are going to try to connect them with our school community so we can continue to support this important effort to support our neighbors. This is directly aligned to what we're all about here in Mahwah. When we talk about community connections, obviously we want to bring people in to educate our students, but that bring our school community and go out and create a positive impact and change is really something for us to be proud of and something for us to continue, because as I said, this is not over. So I'm very happy to report to our board that the work of our students at the high school has created a tremendous change, and more importantly, an awareness, an appreciation and a respect for our neighbors here in Mawa. So we wanted to take a moment to share that really important event. Last but not least, I want to say congratulations to our re-elected and newly elected board members. That will take place in January. So Mr. Kaczmarski, Mr. Gallo, and Ms. Deviniero, thank you so much for putting yourself out there to run, and the time in which you have already given to the district, and you will continue to give to support our efforts to make sure that our students get the best education possible. So that's all I have.
Mr. Bleeker, you have a report for us tonight?
Good evening, everyone. For board members, in front of you, you have a handful of documents, one of them being a budget calendar for the 2022-23 budget. It's a general overview of what the process is and what we're going to accomplish each month as we work through the budget development of 2022-2023 budget. I do want to point out two important dates and deadlines included within that. One of them is March 21st. That is the deadline that we have to adopt a temporary budget or a preliminary budget to submit to the county for review. And also May 9th, 2022. That'll be the deadline that we do need to adopt the final budget for the 2022-23 school year. We will adjust and have our board meetings held just prior to those dates to make sure that we're in compliance with those deadlines. Another item to update the board on this evening is our audit. The state has moved some of the deadlines for the submission of the audit. Typically, the sum piece of the audit, which is a summary of the financials that has to be submitted electronically, is due the beginning of December. That has been pushed to the beginning of January. And the deadline for accepting for presenting the report is typically by the end of December. That has been pushed to February 5th, excuse me. However, auditors do expect that we should have everything for us by about mid-December to review. One other item is just two projects that are being bid. We have two bid openings scheduled for November 30th. One is for the 300-wing HVAC replacement at Joyce Kilmer School. That is a project that we're working with Land Associates on, and we're looking forward to receiving bids for that project to bring in new HVAC units for 16 classrooms there. The other bid on November 30th is the computers, for the Solis computers for high school and middle school students and staff. You will see on the agenda that bid was held last week, but we had to reject the bids. We went out and were able to immediately rebid that, and that is also scheduled for November 30th. And the last item I have is just to wish everyone and their families a happy Thanksgiving next week. Thank you.
Dr. Fair?
Yes, so the first piece is there are 5 asterisks on your agenda. 18A connects to an appointment. We also have the personnel memo in front of you. The highlighted in green provides all the board members with rationale. And then 18F, 18M, 18N, and 18O are last minute leaves of absence on the agenda for this evening, or a leave replacement appointment. Second piece I'd like to report on. So I want to echo some of what Dr. Otoro had to share about the MEVO event, the cleanup effort up in the mountains. And what's great is it really we often talk about #Mawa Connects. I'm telling you, over the weekend, being a part of it, I was so honored. Central office was so honored. Thank you, Mr. Gallo, for being there. in being a part of these efforts. So Violet Reed, who's the executive director of MEVO, she shared a follow-up email with all of us, and she stated, "The energy, cooperation, and determination from everyone made the day impactful and special. Huge shout out to Mawa High School for recruiting such a large group to come out and represent." So as Dr. Otoro shared, we're going to be trying to get more of the school community involved. On December 4th will be their next cleanup event, and information is found on the MEVO website if anyone would like to participate. Recently, we sent out an email related to social media. We share with the community our social media efforts in opening our digital doors. Board members have our digital social media inventory in front of them. I want to thank Ruth Davis, our supervisor of technology integration, for updating this document for us. It lists our staff members, our school buildings, our administrators who have any sort of social media platform in order to showcase the great work that they're doing. So I want to thank our teachers and our buildings for really highlighting some great things that are happening. Some of those people being in our audience this evening. We were successful in launching our first on-site testing, which occurred this past Friday for those staff members who are remain unvaccinated. So we're proud that we're able to launch that, and that will continue weekly throughout the remainder of the executive mandated order. Another piece that we're working on, we were able to secure a vaccination clinic here on site, here in Mawa. So we partnered with our local ACME, who were able to secure Pfizer vaccination. So we've secured Monday, November 29th as dose number 1, and Monday, December 20th for dose number 2 for students ages 5 through 11 and students ages 12 through 17. Obviously, those students would come with parental escorts, and this is completely voluntary. A notice will be sent out to the community for those families who would like to participate. That's something that we're finalizing all those details. And a sign-up link similar to one that Dr. Otoro had shared last week will be released to the community. Right now, the only vaccination data we have related to students is at Mawa High School, and it's dependent on what documentation is shared with the school nurse. So right now, 425 of our 876 students at Mawa High School are fully vaccinated. So it's 48.5% of our high schoolers. And the last piece is connected to agenda item 18P, which is our sick leave bank committee. I wanted to thank those members who will be serving on our sick leave bank committee. That consists of central office, our school building leaders, our teachers, and our supervisors. Our sick leave bank will serve as a system by which we can assist our colleagues who may be undergoing a time of emergency or exceptional need, and will be meeting for the first time tomorrow afternoon. So 193 staff members have already contributed, and we are beyond grateful for all of you. So it's a huge deal. Again, it goes back to Mawa Connects. It's true and it means something here. So I just want to thank all of our staff members who really took part in it. And lastly, I just want to reiterate what Mr. Bleeker had shared. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We're thankful for our staff, we're thankful for our students, and we're thankful for this district. That's it. Thank you.
Dr. Fair, I'd like to, point out on the sick bank, we have the number of people who are participating, but a lot of people donated more than just one day,
Yes.
right? And that's pretty awesome.
Yep, absolutely.
So President's report, I'd like to take a minute just to thank everyone, all 6 candidates who put their names out there to participate in the election process for the Board of Education. Putting your name out there to participate in that process it's a big commitment, and the fact that we had 6 candidates jump into the ring it really says something. It makes our district stronger. So thank you to all 6 candidates who ran, and congratulations to Mr. Kuzmarski, Mr. Gallo, and Ms. Tavanero. Look forward to working with you guys. Board committee reports. See Mr. Copeland grabbing the microphone.
I'll make it quick.
No, you won't.
Oh, this is a quick one, I promise. Even though I'm subbing for Prima. Instruction and curriculum, I'll be much faster than she normally is. Hopefully she's watching. The district has started their adult ESL class again. The first session was a couple weeks ago, and they had 20 parents come. This is open to parents and employees of our district. And if they need any more information regarding that, to reach out to the building principals, and they'll push them in the right direction. We got a report on the Thunderbird Partnership Program, which is going very, very strong. There's about 113 participants that are in our database that are available for our staff to reach out to and bring them into the classroom in various expertises. I believe there were 15 that have been booked so far through the month of October, November, and a couple in December. So hopefully we'll get more of our community members into the classroom. One other thing. January professional development planning is ongoing, and right now there'll be 3 sessions in the morning and a couple in the afternoon. So look for more information on that. MSF, Dr. DeZeros touched on some of the things, but one update on that, their grant cycle for 2022 will be opening up in January 18th. So for the staff that are watching, please look out for information on that. January 18th it'll open, February 18th it'll close, and on March 4th they will announce the grant. So there will be 1 cycle this school year, so just for our staff, keep an eye out for that. And from Community Relations, happy Thanksgiving everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Denise.
Policy has 9 policies or regulations on tonight's agenda for first reading. Mainly from our review of the 9000 series, mainly grammar and punctuation corrections, no real substantial changes to any of the policies or regulations.
Mr. Gallo.
Just a quick question, John. On the 9000 series policy, so let's say, for example, there's a misplaced comma. Would that trigger a revision from wherever we are, so the date will change on the bottom there?
Right.
Okay.
Even these minor language changes or punctuation corrections,
It uprevs the
and
document.
it requires a first reading and then a second reading.
On behalf of Finance and Facilities, I just want to report that we continued on our land engineering reviews of our facilities. Last week we met to review Joyce Kilmer and Lenape Meadows School. I want to thank Dr. Bowie and Mr. Wyka for joining us and for giving us their insights into their buildings. First, we've started to see themes in these findings and in our conversations. And we have one more meeting in December, which will cover this building and our maintenance building, sort of wrap up our findings. And then the real work begins on sort of distilling this into a more concrete action plan. But the exercise has been incredibly worthwhile for our district. You can see, we probably have facilities worth well excess of $200 million. And if we don't stay atop of this stuff, it will come back to be a very big problem for our district. We've already made some progress on some of the items identified by the land reviews, but by planning, anticipating, thinking about this very thoughtfully, we can avoid major expenditures for repairs or system replacements. It's amazing how much windows cost, furnaces, HVAC, window wall system, curtain wall systems, etc. So this has been a very productive process for us, and Dr. Toro has embraced it. He's joined us as many meetings as possible. Dennis has showed up as well. So I think we're going to end up with a really good product out of this and a really clear plan for the district. So I just want to thank everybody's input to that, and we all look forward to our December meeting. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Bell?
Board member Ramon?
Do we have any board member report?
Prima and I attended the Bergen County School Board meeting on November 4th. And the main topic of the meeting was social emotional wellness. Two of the speakers were representatives from the Alumni and Recovery Program, which is a nonprofit organization composed of young adults who are now living in recovery and abstinent from all drugs and alcohol. Their mission is to provide a safe and reliable program to heighten awareness, hope, and resources for our local communities. And their program is open and available to teenagers, parents, and the community at large. They also have community service opportunities available for teens, so I brought this back. I don't know, Dennis, if we should get it, or Linda, and of course, they gave a legislative update. One of the more interesting bills being considered in Trenton right now is one that would allow retired nurses to return, similar to interim superintendents, to address the school nurse shortage.
Mr. Gallup?
I just want to echo the comments that Dr. DeToro and Dr. Fair made about our cleanup project, our participation in the Mevo cleanup project. It was a cool but beautiful Saturday morning, and when you got there, and there were 50 or 60 Mawa High School students there, plus their building leadership, plus central admin staff, it was really an unbelievable sort of sight. And then getting really into the thick of the debris and to understanding the context of how it got there, what the impact has been on the community, what the impact is potentially on our water supplies. It's a real thing. And when I started talking to some of the students, I said, well, how did you pick this? And the community problem, as Dr. DeToro said, they picked the problem in the community, they sort of defined it as sustainability. And then they researched, well, who's involved with that? And that's how they found Mevo, and the marriage occurred. And the enthusiasm among the students was remarkable. There was a little ravine, and under inches of leaves were tires. So they peeled away some of the leaves, they found a tire, and below that tire were 3 more tires. And this group of community problem-solving students, I mean, they mined these tires. But it wasn't just tires. It was seat benches, single and full bench. There was mattresses, clothing, electrical wiring, other building debris, and the enthusiasm they had for getting into this stuff and getting themselves dirty was heartwarming. They really took on this project. This is a real project for Mawa. It really does make a difference. And as Dennis said, they're having another cleanup on 12/4. Everybody's invited, of course. Just go to the Mevo website under programs and volunteer. But it was really seeing the students there and their self-motivation to do this. Nobody was there telling them to do it. Nobody was like, giving them points, gold stars for doing it. They were there because they wanted to do it. They dug themselves into the work. They were all having a good time. It was outdoors and a beautiful day, as you can see in the pictures. It was really remarkable. And the potential. What this shows is the substance of Mawa Connects, of the Thunderbird Partnership Program, and what the potential is for our district, and for our students, most importantly, when we hook up with our community. When the community at large and the school community come together, we can do transformative things. Thank you.
Mr. Coppola?
I had a question for Kyle. Kyle, regarding the rejection of the computer lease bid, will that delay us receiving the new set of computers? And has there been any discussion about how the international supply chain shortage or issues we've been having will impact us receiving the new laptops for next school year?
To answer your first question, yes, obviously when we do have to pause and do a rebid, that will push things back a little bit. However, we were very proactive when we knew that we had to rebid the computers for this year to receive them in June. We worked closely with the vendor that we currently got the computers from, just as a basis to know how far ahead we should be. And then we added about 2 months on top of that, so we knew that we would be ahead of any supply chain issues that they're seeing and that they're telling us about on their end. So for right now, Brett, while I clearly don't have a crystal ball based on the professionals that we have spoken to, we are still ahead and in a very good place to receive the computers well before handing them out to students in September of 2022.
Anyone else? We'll move on to old business. I'll entertain a motion on the minutes from our last meeting. Mr. Denise, second by Mr. Cohn.
Mr. Denise,
Yes.
Mr. Gallo,
Yes.
Ms. Conoco,
Yes.
Dr. Park,
Yes.
Ms. Sagone,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
and Mr. De Silva.
Yes. And move on to new business. I'd like to entertain a motion on A through T, please. Dr. Park, second by Ms. Zacone. Any questions or comments on A through T? Mr. Bleeker?
Mr. Denise,
Yes.
Mr. Gallo,
Yes, except on 17A, I abstain from check numbers 104588, 104683, 104764, and 104828.
thank you. Ms. Conoco,
Yes.
Dr. Park,
Yes.
Ms. Sagone,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
and Mr. De Silva.
Yes. New business, I'll entertain a motion on 18A through W, please. Ms. Conoco, second by Mr. Denise. Any questions, comments, or discussion on 18A through W? Mr. Bleeker?
Mr. Denise,
Yes.
Mr. Gallo,
Yes.
Ms. Conoco,
Yes.
Dr. Park,
Yes.
Ms. Sagone,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes on all, but I abstain on 18T, and thank you to all the volunteers.
and Mr. De Silva.
Yes. Public questions or comments? Public participation at board meetings is in accordance with bylaw 0167. At this time, members of the public may ask questions or may make a comment on educational issues or school matters of community interest. As a matter of fairness, you're asked to limit your questions to no more than one, and your remarks to no longer than 3 minutes. If you're here representing a group, please identify yourself, the group, and your position in the group. If you're here as an individual, please give us your name and address. This section of public participation will be limited to 15 minutes. May I have a motion to open to the public? Mr. Copeland, second by Mr. Gallo. We're open to the public at 7:43.
Hi everybody, my name is Jessica LaPiccolo, 35 Cortland Trail in Mawa. I have 2 children in the Mawa School District. I have a child in 1st grade and a child in 4th grade. Sorry, I'm pulling up my notes. I'm also a product of the Mawa Public School System. I'm a 1997 graduate of Mawa High School, went to Betsy Ross, Joyce Kilmer, Rempo Ridge, and Mawa High School. I just wanted to bring some comments in regards to American Education Week that's happening this week. Yesterday I had the privilege of sitting in on 2 of my children's classes. I have to tell you, my kids' teachers are absolutely wonderful. But I had kind of some key takeaways from watching that that I kind of just wanted to share with everybody. So what I noticed was, it was the first time that I actually got to witness as a parent the interaction with masks with the teachers and the children. And what I realized is that throughout the session, although we were on Zoom, I was relying a lot on my hearing to infer what was happening. And it was the first time that I had this like aha moment for my children on how difficult this must be for them. And then I was watching the children respond to the teacher, or the children respond to other students, and at their age, they don't necessarily have the diction or the verboseness of their voice, and hearing only a fraction of what they were saying. And I kind of walked away and said to myself, like, our kids are getting half of what they should be, and the teachers are put in a position where they are incredibly challenged. And my first grader is in speech therapy, he's now recommended for reading, and I found out this week needs glasses. So it broke my heart that he's really been relying solely on just hearing for his education. Additionally, my fourth grader is a 504 student in occupational therapy. Both of my children being young are both, I call them kind of the COVID generation, right? They've had not a really hard running start on this. So the reason why I kind of wanted to just bring this to everyone's attention is, I know we can't do anything about the state mandate, but the state mandate will change one day. And when it does, it's gonna come down to the district level. I'm proactively here in November, to urge you to, when that happens and it's in your hands, to keep in mind what teachers are going through and what the students are going through. If the teachers are vaccinated, give them the ability to do their job the right way. That is what I'm asking for. My children, I'm not gonna fight that battle here today. I have my own opinion on children. But at the very least, imagine having to do your job every day as an educator and you can't do it to the best of your ability. What that must feel like for them every single day. Allow these teachers to do their job to the best of their ability, and having that sense of verbalization and being able to see my first grader look at their children's lips, these are years he will never get back. And right now I feel like my children's fundamentals are being held hostage. So all I ask is that when it does come to your hands, and it will, maybe in January, maybe in April, maybe in May, please keep this in mind. Imagine not being able to do your job every day. And lastly, I just want to say in closing, this impacts everybody, children, students, teachers, but our children come home to us. So it impacts us as well as a family. And I just want to thank you all for your time and your service. And again, I can't say enough about the teachers that my children have this year, and I just hope you take what I say into consideration when it falls in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Danielle Ryan, 22 Riverview Terrace, Mawa. It's just a comment, not a question, but I know you guys changed the rules on travel in terms of domestic travel, which I think is great. I know the CDC, it's just recommendations at this point. It's not mandates or anything set in stone. It's just giving people the idea of what to follow. I think that was one step forward, and I think that there could be more. International travel is still not allowed. The United States has one of the highest COVID rates in the world. So the idea that we can travel within the country but can't leave when testing is required to get back into the country. So if anything, you're like, quote, more safe. Traveling internationally in the idea that when you get on that plane, they know that you had a COVID test that's negative. Also, if you do travel internationally, I believe the kids that are vaccinated don't need to quarantine, if I followed what the update was. Again, taking into consideration the children that aren't vaccinated, I know now we can go all the way, the entire school system can be vaccinated down to 5. Taiwan's stopped their second COVID shots for 12 through 17 due to United States data saying the dangers of the vaccine, especially the second dose. They're at least pausing it to take a look at it. The United States, we're not doing that. We're just going to keep pushing out the shots for as many people as we can. So with that, I just think that it's putting pressure on families to get their kids vaccinated, just to kind of give their kids freedom rather than doing it for like reasons beyond that. So just an idea that the vaccinated still can get COVID, still can spread COVID. So the idea of like treating unvaccinated individuals as second-class citizens when it's not required, I think maybe we could move forward in those, what's the word? In those restrictions for the non-vaccinated, basically. Thank you.
Hi, Rachel Kirk, Mahwah resident. The clinic that you're offering at the school, is that going to be during school hours, after school hours?
No, that's a good question.
Okay.
It'll be after school hours.
Okay, so parent present.
Of course,
With
yes,
the
so
child.
there will be parental escorts, it's completely voluntary, and it will be on site here at the Thunderbird Run tank.
Okay, and did you decide which school, or is it going to be all the elementary schools?
All schools, so it'll be available for any student, any family who wants to voluntarily sign up to get the vaccination.
Does that include the high school?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, may I have a motion to close to the public? Ms. Conoco, second by Mr. Gallo, and we are closed at 7:51. And we need okay, so at this time, we're going to recess to executive session. There will be no action taken when we come back. So thank you all for coming, and for the people at home, thank you for tuning in, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.